My name is Nicole Stilianou. I am the food dietitian nutritionist of MCTC. I'm so happy to be once more with you and share some interesting thoughts and a nice topic about nutritional cooking. And to begin with, I would like to briefly say what this webinar is going to be about. We're gonna discuss about the benefits of a nutritionist and a dietitian working together with chefs in order to create healthy guidelines and healthier meals that will actually taste good. We are going to explore a little bit about the past, how some cooking techniques were used before, and how through the evolution now they might not be so healthy. We're gonna go briefly about this topic. Some nutritional guidelines, portion sizes, how we can use the food guide pyramid to help us to make a meal plan. We're going to show a sample of a meal plan. The relationship between the health and the cooking methods, the importance of it, some research behind it, some natural flavorings that we can use, how we can mix up some herbs and spices that I'm sure most of you know about. The importance of nutritional cooking is because of the science of it was created in the need of survival. In the very beginning, actually, people were exploring with food in order to see what to eat in order to survive. Even today is the same aspect. We eat to survive firstly, and then out of pleasure and out of feeling good. So through the past, they were searching for ways how to make this science and evolutionized about it, but we're going to show later on in the webinar. The pairing of nutritional value and tasty cuisine must be taken into consideration for professional and homemade use always. A good nutrition not only helps for the healing of sick people or protect the aged one, as we also to build the young ones into the adult life, but also to ensure a healthy lifestyle. And we don't introduce today or never introducing restrictive diets. We introduce a healthy way of living and for each individual to take their own pace and their own way to adjust to this healthier lifestyle. We're going to discuss about it also later on. How to use these natural flavors and textures of food, there are plenty of them. So the awareness is to live longer, to try and find also these groups that need a specific dietary needs. We must never speak in general because we have some groups that are vegetarians, we have some groups that face chronic illnesses. They are some people that are athletes, some people like most of you are on board a vessel. So we will try to meet the nutritional needs of each individual or a group of people. So it's very important to reach in different groups of a diet-specific needs. The main goal of the webinar is to describe consumer perception of nutritionally rich prepared foods, explain why nutritional guidelines do not take away from a chef's ability to create tasty meals, to describe taste as a complex sense, and describe the notion of pleasure of tasting and the psychological value. It's not only making something healthy. If it's healthy and it tastes bad, nobody wants to continue eating it. So we will have to have a balance of these two. We must involve these dietary guidelines and consider the low fat, the low cholesterol, the controlled sodium intake when preparing it. For all of you that might be chefs, the cooking and baking of traditional and not traditional foods, and how we can see different ways of adding flavor in it so we can make it healthier, or see through the week, the meal plan, and say we have some days that might use more fat or more cholesterol in a plate, and some days we can use less, so we can balance it through the week or through the month. And I actually promote this health aspect to our crew or to our families, to our groups even more. And the nutritional cooking that indites dietitians and chefs can actually have a move towards more natural flavors. We have all of us have a busy schedule, so everybody rushes to eat. They might grab something easy like the ready-made, the burgers, the hot dogs, the biscuits. It depends on the culture of what everybody likes. So we can have a step back and look to each one of us, the choices we make in food eating. And actually, this is nice. Poor nutrition is often ignored, especially from younger generation. It is seen through statistics that younger population, because they feel strong, they feel active, they get sick, they get well very easy. Not not the whole young population, but the majority. And not until the middle age they start to arise the health aspect. They start to think about healthy living and everything. But at that stage, it's more difficult to engage in a healthier lifestyle because they developed their habits. The habit and the tradition is very difficult to change. So it's good to start early, but it's never too late. So we would like to encourage the younger population to change, but it's never too late to start changing. I love this photo, that's why I would like to share it. We see two different kinds of people in terms of setting goals. We see here the one on the left side setting small steps towards to their goal, achieving their goal. And we see it's more likely to actually complete their task or complete their goal and be successful. Whereas on the other hand, setting high standards from the very beginning that we cannot even reach them. So it's very important to take a step at a time and set 2-3 goals per week, per month. Even if a whole week goes by and we cannot follow the program that we set, this is for everything, not only for food, it's with everything we do in our life. It's okay to reorganize and start again. Rather than quit, we say we cannot catch it, we cannot achieve it and quit, then you are in the same position as you were always. So this is very nice. And what we said about tradition, I really like to point it out, because tradition is and actually food tradition is one of the heart and the roots of a culture. It's very difficult to change the tradition of a culture. See all of you today here. Each one of us comes from a different culture, and the cuisine of a culture shows our traditions. So to go back and actually, if you can see that it went through generation to generation, this is how strong it is to change it. What we introduce is not changing the whole tradition, just to make smaller adjustments so it can follow our new way of life. Because many years ago we had different needs, and nowadays we have different needs, as we see now the last 1.5 years about the COVID-19. We have different needs, our life changed, we have more sedentary lifestyle, we cannot go out as often. So all these things must always be taken into consideration year by year and adjusting to the new environment. So to make it more fun, I would like to explore a little bit about the past. They need to survive, so they consume high-fat, high-protein food that provided them warmth and energy. They experiment through it. Sometimes they get sick, they got a disease, it led to death due to food poisoning. So they changed it. They find new ways of preparing their food. So we can see from them and get set them as an example how it grows through the years, because fat is palatable and it tastes nice and it has twice the calories as from carbohydrates and protein. That's why it helped them to survive longer back then. This is a nice photo of people in the ancient days hunting for their food, and this is how they used to prepare it so they can be strong. Then we're going to discuss also about it later on when new tastes, new products, they found fruits, different, they start fishing, new tastes and things came in, and it made it more rich. And a nice thing to say is like in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, they use animal fat for cooking. Then they explore that animals that have high fat, like ducks and geese, they experiment through storing the cooked meat together with cooking juices in the same jar they were cooked in. It preserved for longer periods of times. But later on through the years, in the 1150 to 15,000, people observed that if they store enough food during the winter months, they could maintain a good source of energy through the whole year. However, back then, obesity was in fashion. It was a sign of beauty and wealth. Heavy fatty taste was a sign of being well preserved. And they used it also for sausages to give moisture and juicier taste. After that, we noticed this food called pemmican. Maybe some of you might know about it. That was firstly from Asia. Asian Indians were using it. They mixed dry meat with dry berries and nuts, and they had it for survival in the cold winters of North America. Even the first European called Alexander Mackenzie crossed through North America continent in the 1793 and took this protein food with him, and it helped him pass through the whole journey. And even today, thousands of years after that, hunters and travelers, they still use it. One cooking method that was used from back then was salt. It was useful for countries that did not have any sea or ocean in close proximity. And until the 7th century, salted fish, poultry, and meat became very common, especially when fresh food was not available, and it preserved the food for longer time. And it was also very famous for people that could not easily go for hunting back then. Smoking and drying was another preservation way of preserving technique for food in Asian population. The fire could dry the flesh quickly. Smoke killed bacteria and also added flavor depending on the type of wood used. This method was very famous for cheese and wine, and also for sausages and salami. After, in the European Renaissance, during the 12th and 16th century, the culinary art grew and it was more popular. So people started to experiment with different combinations of food, different tastes, different flavors. They start to check these specific parts of the world. They exchange food through with prices. So the seasonings and spices arised more and more people learned about them. And the vitamins also started later on that I will show. But before that, I would like to show that scurvy was a chronic illness that develops mainly in sailors. The captains noticed that around the 17th century, they affected the gums and the healing of sores. And it was a disease coming from the sailors that they were on board and couldn't consume citrus fruits or citrus juices for long periods of time. So they had lack of vitamin C, and they felt weak, they felt tired, they had sore arms and legs. They had low red blood cells, that's why they felt weak. And the bleeding of the skin, if they injured, it was more difficult to heal. So they start noticing this disease. And after some years, when they start around the 18th and 19th century, they start to check about the importance of the animal tissue and the human tissue, and the vitamins were discovered. So they were introduced. And the vitamins, we don't say the supplements, we say the vitamins taken from food, from fresh consumption of vegetables and nuts and seeds and the grains and the plants and all of these different colors of food products. We have 7 dietary guidelines, and it's nice to see these 7 dietary guidelines and try not to follow them at once, all of them, but try at least to take from each group. To balance the food you eat and your level of physical activity to maintain and improve your weight. To choose a diet rich in grain products, vegetables and fruits. To choose a diet low in fat, saturated fat and cholesterol. Eat from variety of foods. So if you make number 4, like eat from a variety of foods, then it's more likely you eat the vegetables and fruits. It's more likely you eat less fat because you eat from all food groups. To have moderate intake of salt and sodium. So you see that it was famous back in the days, but now it's not so healthy to use this technique very often. To restrain the intake of sugar. Again, here we're going to show later on some spices and some food products that might sweeten the food. And I'm sure most of you know many of these. And if possible, to use alcohol in moderation. People require essential nutrients for growth, health and energy. The body cannot produce itself, it can only obtain from food. So this is why it's important to check and see what we intake. And they are best obtained through consumption, the nutritious diet. The seafarers can engage in physical activity, the one that is most convenient to them. And also their schedule helps them to be active actually, but also to try to find something that is fun, make you feel nice and enjoy a type of physical activity. The caloric needs always depend on age and health, and increase or decrease based on the physical activity. And also the guidelines that we discussed before depend on the age and the calories and the person can eat per day and the group. As we said before, if it's a specific group of vegetarians, if it's a group of they have a chronic illness, depends. To move on, I found this simple food guide pyramid that everybody's aware of the food guide pyramid, but let's take a minute and see what actually it means. Everybody sees the food guide pyramid, but if you check on it, it can also help you to build your day or your week of what to eat. So you see the carbohydrates at the very bottom, which is the grains, the cereals, the rice, the pasta. Then on top is the vegetables and the fruits, the dairy products, the meat, that it's not only meat, it's also poultry, fish, beans, eggs, nuts, and less the fats and oils and the sugars is here. But it shows that if you have 6 to 11 servings per day from the main category, that is the grains, it means that you got a lot of energy, but I'm going to show in a while the portion sizes. What is the 6 to 11 servings? What it means. The 3 to 5 and fruit groups 2 to 6 servings. So all these servings are helpful, but I'm going to show you in the next slide the portion sizes. In the following, after this slide, I'm going to show you the portion sizes. So to take that food guide pyramid and see that an average person requires 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day, but this is not general. It depends on the age, the gender, the muscle mass one has, the physical activity, the weather. The weather also plays a serious role, and the everyday lifestyle. So larger number of servings for people that are physically active. And this depends, it's not for every day, it's the same. But it's a general rule that it was set just to have something to follow. The portion sizes we discussed, if you see here, the grains, the grain products, the one slice of bread is one serving. So if you have 2 slices of bread for a sandwich and 1 ounce of cereals, approximately 1 to half a cup of oatmeal, rice, pasta. So if you have a whole cup of it, you got other 2 servings. So 2 and 2, you got the 4. Then for nighttime, if you got another type of a carbohydrate, you meet your day. The vegetable, a cup of raw leafy vegetable is 1 serving. Half cup of other vegetables cooked or chopped is another serving. 3/4 cup of vegetable juice is also 1 serving. The food group of fruits, 1 medium apple. If you have 1 big apple, it's like you took 2 servings of fruit. So this is to help you see if you reached the healthy goal, let's say. If you eat your fruit for the day, if you eat your vegetables, if you eat your grains. And to move on, I created a sample of a nutrition plan high in fiber. And it has a cup of orange for the morning, an oatmeal, a cup of it, milk, 1 cup to half cup of it, 2 slices of whole grain and 1 slice of low-fat cheese. Then for lunch, it can be meat with 2 slices of bread, but it can be also rice or pasta or potato. It can be 2 cups of beans that will be equivalent to meat, a salad of a choice, and a fruit. Then at night time, we have the baked fish, the salad, the carrots, and celery, a baked potato, and melon later on, before bed. Fiber benefits, it lowers cholesterol, it controls blood sugar, good gastrointestinal health, it prevents constipation and the risk of colon cancer, it helps for weight control, it feels us easy when we eat fiber, and it prevents diverticulosis, that are small pouches in the lining of the digestive tract that causing inflammation. The protein intake. We want the protein intake to be as much as possible low in fat, low in salt, and low in sugar, because sugar is also used for preparing meats. We have best choices is skim milk, lean meat, fish, skinless chicken, beans, tofu, and plant-based protein. The human skin is a living organ, so we like to speak about what is coming underneath us reflects, in the organism, it reflects also to our skin. So for most of the people, you can see their health status also from their skin, if it's bright, if it's dull, if it's it depending also of what they are eating. Adequate exercise also plays a role. The sleep and the balanced diet all contribute to healthy skin. Some vitamins that help are vitamin A, zinc, vitamin C. These cells replace the lost ones we had through the day, so also help. And the diet and aging. It's not only how we will look when we age, everybody's going to age eventually, but how we're going to age, this is important. How we can slow down the process of aging, and not meaning only through our looks, but meaning through our health and organism, because aging of the organism leads to osteoporosis, diabetes, heart disease, and all of these are result not only, but a high reason of causing these illnesses is bad diet. And research have shown and proven it through the years. Scientific evidence show the relationship of chronic illnesses and a bad diet. And in developing countries are also increasingly suffering from high levels of public health problems that led to chronic illnesses. World Health Organization stated that deaths caused from chronic illnesses and diseases dominate mortality statistics, and diet plays a key role in preventing these risks. Traditionally large plant-based diets switch to high-fat ones, and energy-dense diets are mainly animal-based foods. So this one also led to chronic illnesses. Physical activity, if it's increased, it also helps, as we spoke before. We see from the past studies happened in 2000 that predicted that in 2020 we're going to have an increase in worldwide health problems, causing heart diseases and strokes and diabetes. And then we compare with statistics that happened in 2015 to 2020 that actually proven what was said in 2000 and farther back, that it was is happening. Even though we have a higher rise of healthy living and healthy, still there is some process and progress to be done, and it can be done by each individual. As you can see here, this is our tongue, and we have the taste receptors. You see how big is the receptor of sweet, and salt is right next to it. And a little bit behind is the sour taste, and we have the bitter back in the back of the back of the tongue. And around here is a new taste, not so new anymore, but it's called umami, and I'm sure everybody is aware of it, especially chefs and cooks. And makes the feeling of chili and this kind of taste. For some cultures is more powerful because they use it more, so it becomes more powerful. So in the very front of the tongue, we see that the sweet taste can become very strong, or the salty, and it depends how we will exercise this taste and this flavor. So if we start adding the herbs and the spices we're going to show later on, it will decrease the feeling of the sweet in our food or the salt. is a very important sensation. Many take it for granted. But through taste, we can enjoy our food, distinguish if the food is spoiled or is fresh, determine the tradition and the origin of a food, and is one of the most pleasurable of all senses, the taste, actually. And a little bit together with taste, it comes the sense of smell. So these two work together a lot. And cooks and chefs must understand the true intricacies of these senses. And I don't know if you know about it, but one of the few types of human organs that completely regenerate themselves each week is the tasty tabs in our tongue. This one is the taste senses in our tongues, and they regenerate. How we detect the taste? Okay, this is a little about also chemistry. We're not going to go very far into it, but just to speak that it's a primarily stimulus that comes from salt from amino acid glutamate, which is known as a monosodium glutamate. The MSG is also a flavor enhancer, but it's controversial if it's healthy or not. High quantities can be toxic and can lead to toxicity. And some taste cells are more sensitive to detect in a variety of other tastes. At the tip of the tongue, we have the taste cells, as we spoke before, and we have dominant taste and predominant ones. The sour taste is a sensation is predominantly detected in the right left, as we show in the graph before. We have the this sensation is generated through the ingestion of the following acidic foods: citrus and malic, and the bitter taste is more behind, as you saw, and sometimes warns in case of a poisonous alkaloids in some plants and animals. So it's very good to exercise this taste. The umami, as we showed before, that is chili and pepper and ginger taste. And all these have chemicals that stimulate the pain receptors in the mouth from the taste pads. And what it means is that, again, from some cultures, they don't feel the burning sensation or the pain as much as other cultures. And this is what I would like to share with all of you, how we can use the different herbs and spices to add different types of taste in our cooking procedures, in our cooking methods and recipes at home, on board, and anywhere you like. They provide a wide range of flavors in food and beverage. They can be used in many different combinations to create flavors. They can also provide in oils and flavoring agents. And these oils are released either through simmering the herbs and spices in a liquid or frying them, or with fat sometimes. The nutritional cooking simmering in liquid is preferred, and must be careful not to lose the scent of it and the smell. The dry herbs and spices must be kept in a tightly closed containers and stored in cool parts of the kitchen. And exposure to air and light sometimes decreases their flavor. We see some groups of herbs and spices. We see the peppery, the minty ones: mint, basil, marjoram, parsley, oregano, chervil, and tarragon. These are more peppery. The flowery ones, that anise, fennel, caraway, celery seeds, the dill, the saffron, and the pungent ones: the thyme, the rosemary, bay, cloves, cinnamon. So you can mix them up. You can take from one. However, there are some that much more than others. And then a nice experiment for a chef is to be interested in certain tastes, but they may not be sure how well it will react with other flavors. So testing before adding them to a recipe, it's a good way to go. Is to hold the herb or spice for a small period when prepared. The smell and aroma from the spice and the product at the same time, hold it together, and it will combine a scent of it and the taste of it. But the next step is to take a small amount of a sauce, liquid or raw product that is being cooked, and mixed it with this small amount of herb and mixture you prepare it, and cook small samples of it so you can see the outcome. You can cook small sample of one mixture you make, small sample of another one, and you see if it's actually tasting nice, and then try to implement it more. I'm sure you all do this kind of technique. And let's see, anthology of some spices. There are a lot of them. I try to speak about some of them. The allspice, I have it first because it's a Native American spice and it's found in the Caribbean islands. First is the fruit of a tropical evergreen of the myrtle family and often referred to as Jamaican pepper. And it's usually called, it's called allspice because it resembles in flavor to other spices, to cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg. But because it also combines with almost all of the other spices, you can mix it up very easy. And it's a nice flavoring for meat, poultry, seafood, stew, and sauces, and turkeys, shrimps, and mussels. But at the same time, you can also add it in pies, pudding, and soups, vegetable soups. Some other spices are anise. That is an allspice, more known in the Mediterranean region, but it combines also with allspice. We spoke the mace, ginger, coriander, and cumin, and it's good for using it for vegetarian dishes. And it's also used in the southern Indian cuisine. Basil is another Mediterranean, very famous, is one of the most famous because it grows very easily due to the climate of the Mediterranean area. So it's freshly available all year round, and it's part of the mint family. We have the bay herb that is excellent provider of taste and smell, and it can be used in hot oil. The caraway can be found in rye bread, so you can add this in rye breads. It's an excellent enhancer of many dishes for lamb and sesame and sage and sweet potato. And the cardamom, that it can be forgotten many times and underestimated, but it's a fragrance that is used to perfumes and oils in ancient Rome. So we can use this herb crushed, and we can have it in rice and pilaf and creamy oil, onions and meat pies. So through using this one, we can decrease the sugar intake. We have the cassia, similar to the taste of cinnamon. That is, the cinnamon is one of the most romantic spices in history of all spices. It's an excellent taste provider for many different food products like potatoes, carrots, peas, sprouts, meats, turkeys, cakes. Seafood is very nice. We have the chervil, that is an essential herb in the Mediterranean also cuisine. The celery seeds that provides quick intensification to almost every dish that is used, and it can smooth out a strong taste and enhance other delicate taste ones. And the cayenne, that can have, it's like related to bell peppers and chilies, and is used to promote liquid sauces for flavoring soups and stews. Furthermore, we have some additional herbs, the cloves, spice that is also a pain reliever, and it's good for blending it. The spice with fennel, cinnamon, bay leaves, and sage. The coriander is an excellent for sausage recipe and savory dishes. It can be used for fish and shellfish. The dill, that has intense flavor also. It can be used other dominant flavors together with sour cream and vinegar dressing. And the fennel, that is very famous, used in Italian sausages and also in tomato sauce, soups and stews. So you see this flavor a lot. And some additional ones that most of you know about: the garlic, the ginger, oregano, paprika, pepper, parsley. All of these you can see in this table, and all of them are very healthy. All of them provide antioxidants, and they're very tasty. How we can use these herbs for natural flavorings when we want to sweeten our dishes without adding sugar. We can use also some food products like caramelized onions, some carrots, the parsnips, the ripe tomatoes, the celery, the yellow tarpines, the apples, the sweet berries, strawberries, any of the berry families, almonds and hazelnuts, the macadamia nuts, the sweet bell peppers, the fennel, the mushroom, the vegetable stock, and we have the bitter flavory foods, the endive, the Belgium endives, the radicchio, the mustard greens. So these provide more bitter flavor, kale, escarole, so you can see all these ones. We have the sour filling taste that we can add lemon, lime, grapefruit, sour cherries, plain yogurt even can help, vinegar, sour wine, sour cream. To accomplish a peppery taste, we can have the jalapeno peppers, the cayenne, the relleno, the anchos, and all these listed here. And to move further on, we can say about some ways of cooking. Some are more healthy, like sauteing instead of pan frying or deep frying. Sauteing using a non-stick coated cooking pans reduce the amount of fat needed for cooking, and measure the amount of fat needed carefully. The stir frying is the only frying technique that allows food to cook rapidly with only a fraction of the amount of fat needed for sauteing the same foods. The roasting is a low-fat cooking method. Extended cooking times required for roasting may affect vitamin retention of some meats, and good ways to cut the meat into small pieces. We have the grilling and broiling, which is very popular for low-fat cooking technique, and no additional fat is required. We have the blackened technique using cast iron skill but no fat. The pan is very hot and no oil or fat can be added. But these two above techniques, they release carcinogens. So again, we must also check how often we use them. So it's good to use from all these techniques through the week, not to have mainly one because it requires less fat. Okay, it's healthy, we use this one. We can set the table and see, I'm going to use this technique, now this technique, and mix them up. Poaching, which is excellent for no-fat cooking technique, and steaming, that is also excellent for extremely fast, no-fat cooking with little loss of vitamin. This is very important. For any flavors, it has no loss of it. And if it's available and if it's possible, to substitute sometimes the meats. So beef ribeye with beef tenderloin, beef top round with beef eye round, beef brisket with beef frank steak, beef strip steak with beef sirloin steak, ground beef with ground turkey, any beef cut with any venison cut, pork ribs with lean pork chops, pork shoulder with fresh ham, any red or white meat with rabbit if possible, venison or turkey, or even chicken, and also fish, that is a good source of protein, and veal scallopini with turkey scallopini. And to end this webinar, I would like to share 2 recipes that provide low calories and at the same time some of the herbs or the ingredients we spoke before, and they are very good source of energy providers. They can be used for breakfast, for snack, sometimes for dinner. It depends on the schedule and the lifestyle of each individual. We can have 2 cups of rolled oats, half a cup of walnuts chopped, half cup of ounces of raisins. Here we can be other fruit, dry fruit, doesn't need to be raisins, because underneath, if you see, we have fresh fruits of choice. So it can be strawberries, it can be any of the preferable or the available ones, honey, cinnamon, and yogurt, low-fat yogurt. It's very simple to make it. You mix them up. You see the technique: the walnuts, the raisins, the honey, the cinnamon, the vanilla. Then you add the slice of fruits and strawberries or any fruits with the yogurt and the granola. You add another 2 layers and you are finished with it, and you get a high amount of nutrients. It's like a superfood. Another one is can be also used as a dessert or as breakfast, again, depending on the needs. And if you see, you can add all-purpose flour with whole wheat flour. You can mix it up. Rolled oats, again, that is very healthy. Sun cornmeal, cardamom, ground coriander, ounces of dates, chopped or pitted, milk, vanilla, molasses, vegetable oil. This one, though, as chefs and cooks, or as a person that likes to cook in their own kitchen, it doesn't need to be only the cooks and chefs, it's for everybody. It can be mixed and matched. Like somebody might prefer to add cinnamon even here. It's okay. Or mixing it up is also pretty much low in calories for breakfast. But it's not only about calories. It's about also providing nutrients and healthy ingredients together with it. Some of the references that helped me combine this webinar.